Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike from 1AAuto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And next time you need parts for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the timing chain on this 2003 Mercury Mountaineer with the 4.6 liter V8 engine.
And to perform this repair, you're going to need quite a breadth of tools. You'll need a very good socket and ratchet set along with screwdrivers, wrenches, pliers, and things like that. And you'll also need some specialty tools. We've listed them here, and you'll see how we use stuff within the video to take things apart. And the first part is disconnect both your battery cables, and then you're going to want to basically take the front of the engine apart to get to the front of the engine, and that's going to vary somewhat by different vehicle, so we'll show you on this Mountaineer what we did.
Lift up on this panel and pull it free. And then remove these two 11mm nuts. And once you remove those, lift the engine cover up and off. And then pull the hose free. Lift up on the tab on this harness and disconnect it. Pull this hose free, and then loosen up this hose clamp with a flat blade screwdriver. And then just pull that hose free. And now you want to just lift your air intake box out. So pull those two hoses out. Pull the air intake box from the side of the vehicle. And then lift that and the hose assembly up and out. Slide a drip pan underneath, and then using a pair of pliers, push the teeth together on this clamp and slide it back, and pull the hose free. And you want to lift it up so no more coolant will splash out, and just tuck this in over here. Now remove this 13mm nut. And we'll fast forward as Mike does that.
Remove the bolts that hold either side of the upper radiator shroud, and also undo the clip for the refrigeration line.
And then using a 10mm wrench, just remove these fan bolts.
Okay, we're going to remove the fan belt. This is kind of the cheap and easy way. Just take a screwdriver and pry it out and off of this this idler pulley down here. Okay, once you get it off of there, actually point up on the belt and off the alternator.
And then just remove the bolt belt the rest of the way.
Okay, so I'm going to get my 10mm wrench on here. Okay, then I'm going to put my large adjustable there to hold it. And I'm going to use another wrench to hook on my 10mm, give me some extra leverage, and loosen up that bolt.
For now, I'm going to loosen all 4 bolts, but I'm only going to remove 2 so I can get the tools in there I need to remove the fan clutch.
Okay, so I'm going to take this tool, and the peg goes into the hole there, and then I'm going to put it right against that stud to hold it.
So I used that fan pulley wrench, put it into one of the holes that I had taken one of the bolts out of, and then was able to hold onto it and loosen the fan clutch with the larger adjustable wrench.
We're going to use a piece of wood to make a tool to hold the crank. So if you look down here, you'll see I've got 3. These bolts are M8 by 125. There are holes in the harmonic balancer pulley. So I've put those bolts there. And I'm just going to put the piece of wood against them and hold it on there firm and just make a mark at the top of each one. Okay, so here's my 3 marks. Alright, if I draw a line, let's see, straight between these 2, doesn't have to be perfect, straight between these 2, and straight between these 2. That's the center. So I've got my 3 dots, and then I made a center hole. So I'm going to use a 3/8 drill. That'll be big enough for my bolts and to have a little bit of movement for adjustment. Now I'm going to drill an 1/8" pilot hole in the middle. Okay, now we're going to use a 1" wood bit because that'll allow my socket to get through there pretty easily. Okay, so I've got my wood. This is the large hole that the socket and ratchet can go through to the crank bolt. I'm going to bolt it on with my 3 other bolts. Now you can see I've got my board on there, and that can actually hold the crankshaft. 18mm socket ratchet right through that large hole.
The board lets you hold the engine in place while you remove the bolt for the harmonic balancer.
This is a harmonic balancer puller tool. You can see we've threaded this on. We're going to put this end on it so it doesn't go down the crank. And then we're going to use our 3 long bolts and bolt the 3 bolts to the harmonic balancer. Okay, so you can see we've got our puller mounted with the 3 bolts into the balancer, and we just tighten up the puller and pull it free.
Now just pull your harmonic balancer up and out.
Alright, pull off your water pump pulley. And now we're just going to remove basically anything that's bolted to the front cover. Pulleys, tensioner, there's some brackets, and then over here more pulleys and brackets, and even down lower there are some smaller brackets holding hoses at the bottom.
When the last of those bolts that holds in the tensioner is removed, it just pulls free. And once you remove the nut down here, you want to just pry that bracket off the stud.
And just for safekeeping, I just thread all the bolts back into their holes.
Okay, next is removing the power steering pump, and it's probably the hardest part of this whole thing. There are 2 studs right down here. First you remove the nuts, and then you remove the bracket that's on there as well as the negative battery cable. And then those nuts are actually on stud bolts, so you have to remove those bolts. They're all 13mm. You'll need a 13mm long socket.
So for these 2 studs, I was able to get one out with my big impact socket here. The one that's closer to the front of the vehicle, you need a narrower, deep socket, 13mm, to be able to get up in there and clear everything, and then remove it.
Now down here on your lower fan shroud, there's 2 more 8mm bolts. Just go ahead and remove those. And then pull the fan shroud up and out. And you do have to kind of angle up one end and then just feed it up and out.
There's another 10mm bolt right under here, and there's actually a line that goes right underneath it, so you can get a 10mm wrench through your pulley onto the bolt. And you can kind of just do it a 1/16 of a turn at a time.
Okay, when I said that removing the power steering pump was the hardest part, this bolt is actually the hardest part of this whole procedure. Both taking it out and putting it back on. You got to get your 10mm wrench in there. You can turn it about 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn at a time. Flip the wrench over. You kind of have to angle it and move the power steering pulley a little bit as you're turning, and eventually it'll come down and out. Now we're going to get into removing the valve covers. You want to pull the harnesses up and off, and you can actually disconnect the harnesses from all the coils and fuel injection, the fuel injectors, and that'll give you a little extra room. Pull all the hoses from the valve covers, and then remove the 8mm, and I think there's even maybe a 13mm bolt on one side. Just remove all those, and then you can pull the valve covers up and out.
Okay, I'm just going to move this out of the way, and there's a 13mm bolt right here that holds it.
Now just tap this lightly with the hammer to separate it. And then you want to just lift up on the valve cover. And just move all the harnesses out of the way. And we're just going to fast forward as he keeps working it out. And once you get it to a certain point, you can just pull the valve cover free. And you're going to want to do the same thing on this side. But first, there's a bracket right here with an 8mm bolt. Just remove that bolt and pull the bracket free.
And then repeat the procedure to remove that camshaft cover.
There are
and now we're on to the
4
timing chain cover.
13mm
There
bolts
are
that go
bolts up through the bottom
of the oil pan.
that are
1,
13mm.
2, 3, and
they
4.
hold the
We'll remove
oil
those.
pan into the timing chain cover, so we'll remove those first. Okay, some of the studs that hold the timing cover on have wire harness clips on them, so pry those off. And then you'll want to remove, you'll need a deep socket 18mm to remove the 18mm stud bolts that hold the cover on. And then it's held on also by 13mm bolts.
And there's actually one more bolt right here under the water pump. So we'll just remove that. And then you want to just push the tab on this harness and disconnect it. Do the same thing with this harness up here.
Carefully remove your camshaft or valve cover gaskets. You want to be sure not to tear them or rip them because you will be reusing them. They have a little bit of gasket sealer on them to hold them in place and plug the cracks between the timing cover and the engine. And now at the top there are little ears that you can pry very lightly. It should come off. If it doesn't come off for any reason, just make sure that you have all the bolts out. But it should come out.
And then carefully, you want to just lift this up and out. And it is sealed up a little on the bottom, so you have to pull out the bottom a little bit. And then just carefully feed the front of your engine up and out. and it does take some maneuvering. And now we have access to the timing chain.
We hope this video helps you out. Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll free, 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.